Everyone, welcome to our first couples podcast. We are going to be doing a hybrid podcast here between health and science. I am the tech guy. You know me from my channel, Tech World Travels and Reviews. And Riva here, who's going to introduce in a second. She's the science person, and we're going to get the science perspective or science lens of all the different things that's happening right now in the space of health. So I'm going to pass it over to Riva here to give us a quick introduction on her background and why we're doing this podcast together.
Hi everyone, I am Riva. I am a physician and a research coordinator. I spend a lot of my time thinking about advances in medical health and technology and how the world of medicine has been changing over time. And then I come home and Orlando has a whole different idea about all of the topics in the news or trending information about healthcare or breaking news about advances in health. And I realized that sometimes the medical information doesn't actually get translated into how people experience their healthcare. And so we decided to do this podcast together so that we can sort of bridge the gap between, medical information and people's actual health experience and ideas that they have about the new topics in the news.
So I have a question. What are you hoping to achieve out of this podcast?
Honestly, I'm just hoping that we can package some of the different medical advances out there into information that people can understand and maybe is helpful for you in your future discussions with your healthcare providers. This is just our personal opinion. This is just how we interpret the science. None of this is medical advice. If you are considering healthcare information, you should definitely still contact your doctors or your healthcare providers.
So for today's episode, it's a banger. It's one that's in the news. I mean, we were watching TV a couple of nights ago, and almost every ad break there was a GLP-1 ad or commercial that was playing. So we know it's the most popular drug right now in the market. And our episode I wanted to dive into is should you take pills versus the injectable when choosing the right GLP-1 for you. And I'll pass it over to Riva here to give us the science here.
Yeah, okay. So first of all, let's take a step back. So what are GLP-1s, right? So GLP-1 just really means a glucagon-like peptide, which that is actually a natural hormone that's produced in your body, usually in your digestive tract. And the whole point of it is to, manage your blood sugar levels, your appetite, and just your digestion. So the GLP-1s are synthetic versions of this hormone, and what they do is it tries to mimic the normal hormone that's produced in your body. Okay, so the whole point of the GLP-1s is to manage the weight loss, yes, but it also suppresses your appetite, and it manages blood sugar, but it also, reduces the risk of cardiovascular or heart problems.
So, what are your perspective here in should people consider the oral pill or the injectable version of the GLP-1?
Which one would you choose?
I personally would probably go with the pill because that seems like you just pop a pill like a blood pressure pill like some people would. So I guess a low lift in a sense. But I don't know, and I'm kind of biased here, I don't know if the pill would have the same strength or potency like an injectable would. So that's why I think a lot of people get confused, or maybe I get confused on.
Yeah, so to be honest, there's no best version of this drug. It just really depends on the person. And I know every time I tell her, it just depends on the person and everything of all their healthcare comorbidities or, different diseases that they might have. And you hate when I say it just depends. But, it's not a one size fit all. Medicine is not really a one size fits all. So even though you might think like the pills are a better option, there are certain people that the pill would not be a better option for them. And it just depends on what's the point of you taking it. Like, are you taking it to manage your blood sugar? Are you taking it for weight loss and to manage your blood sugar? Or are you taking it for, just to lose a little bit of weight or to have a big weight loss?
I think like this is a really important question. So most people, I would assume, are considering GLP-1 for weight loss. But you mentioned something here like managing blood sugar. Could I guess the two, like weight loss and blood sugar is related, but it also could be cases where someone doesn't have blood sugar problem, just have a weight loss problem. Are they at risk of taking, when they take GLP-1, where they will control their sugar too much and become like a hypoglycemia while taking GLP-1s?
Yeah, so some folks, if you're just taking it for weight loss, there is the appetite suppression, which happens. And so sometimes you can forget to eat. So yes, you are advised usually by your medical provider to, eat, to drink lots of liquids and hydrate well, because sometimes you might forget to eat and that might be why. But generally speaking, no, they don't actually cause you someone without blood sugar problems. It doesn't really cause you to have hypoglycemia or low blood sugar.
So what I understand here is you're saying that no matter if you have high or low blood sugar, taking GLP-1 is not going to impact you severely. It's mostly going to impact the weight loss.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay, so like managing blood sugar would be like secondary impact.
Yes. So if you're taking the GLP-1 to manage your blood sugar, studies actually show that the injectables are a better option for this. So there were so many studies that were done comparing the two at least when they were in research phase, which is like the clinical trials. And the injectables actually cause a higher percentage of management, so it reduces the blood sugar faster and it keeps it under control for a longer time without requiring a strict diet, versus the pills, which are still effective. They just require you to be very strict about your diet. So in terms of blood sugar management, the injectables are a little bit of a better option, but again, they're both equally effective.
So when you say effective, you're saying like they're both equally potent?
They're both very good at managing the blood sugar and weight loss at the same time.
And I think like when we think of the injectables, a lot of people are squeamish about injecting themselves. And for the injectables, does it have to be injected at a certain place in your body? I'm assuming you can inject it on your finger as a finger prick, but there's like specific areas in your body that you should be injecting it.
Yeah, I know like most people prefer pills because they're worried about taking injections. But the injectables, yes, you do have specific sites that you would have to inject. A lot of people would do it on their tummy, or they'd be advised to do it on their tummies, on their legs, or in the bigger muscles. And that's just, for easier absorption. Versus the pills, they're oral. But the problem with pills is you'd have to remember to take it every day. So if you're somebody that's not squeamish about needles and you tend to forget taking your pills every day, then probably the injectables might be a better option for you.
So to sum this all up, it sounds like you're saying that whether you take the pill or the injectable, the results can probably be the same, because there's neither or is more potent or less potent. It's just there's a set of like disciplines that you have to follow if you take the pill, to make sure you take it at a set time, make sure you don't eat prior to taking the pill, so you have that absorption. And the trade-off with injectables is you have to be able to like not be too squeamish about injecting yourself or pricking parts of your body. So I think to like answer the question, it sounds like it doesn't matter if you take a pill or the injectable, both of them would provide probably the same results when it comes to weight loss, right?
Yeah, the injectables actually reduce there's like a 5 to 8% on average better weight loss and blood sugar like control. But yeah, you do have to be pretty strict about taking the pills, because if you forget to take the pills, then it would not be as effective.
And when it comes to all the different companies, I know we're not sponsored by Wegovy or Ozempic, but I know when it comes to GLP-1, there's so many companies that are selling GLP-1. Is there any specific company that has, I guess, more better quality GLP-1 versus other company? Does it kind of matter in a sense, or it doesn't matter if you choose Ozempic or Wegovy? The end result is kind of the same because of I guess the substance that is getting deployed in your body.
I don't think there's a better brand name version of the drug. To be honest, when you're making a decision, as somebody that has to make health decisions, a lot of the conversation you have is about the cost, about, your personal preference, of course, but also about, what is the target? Are you trying to, again, control your blood sugar? Are you trying to control weight loss? Are you trying to reduce cardiovascular risk? Then convenience. Are you able to take home these injections and give it to yourself? Accessibility, because some people just don't have access to this, right? Especially in the US, like there's people that don't have access to all of the different brands, so you can maybe only get one or the other. So no, I don't think there's a better brand. I think the conversation shouldn't be about which brand is better, but again, what are your needs and what is the best fit for your life?
Got it. So it sounds like we're saying here, to summarize, that the brand, whether it's Ozempic, Wegovy, Zepbound, the brand is like less important. It's more about how you are able to afford this cost and what is covered, I guess, with your insurance, and being able to administer it by yourself. I do think there's a slight difference in the different brand in terms of the injectables. I think Zepbound and maybe Wegovy, the injectable, kind of works differently. But it doesn't sound like there's any major difference from brand to brand.
Not in terms of efficacy. I feel like, remember, the dose might be different for everybody. So honestly, it just depends on your dose. And it just depends on, again, what are you trying to achieve and in how much time?
That's another question I had is, who define what dose of the GLP-1 that you're taking? Is it defined by, I guess, yourself, your doctor? Maybe I go to the doctor and said I want 5 mg of my first dose of GLP-1, and then I want to reduce to, I guess, 2.5. Who defines that, and why does the dose actually matter?
Yeah, so dose really, really matters in almost every type of medication, and it definitely matters for GLP-1s. It really depends on your healthcare provider. You could say to your healthcare provider, I want to start at 5, but if it's not safe for you to start at 5, you're not going to start at 5. So some of the things like your healthcare provider will take into consideration are, again, do you have any other underlying health conditions? So do you have diabetes? Do you have high blood pressure? Do you have a thyroid problem? Because some people with thyroid problems, they can't take the same dose of the GLP-1s. Do you have kidney problems? Do you have eye problems? All of these things actually affect the start dose that you might take. Another thing that I think people don't really consider is the starting dose will be a little bit slower, and then you kind of trend upwards as if you require it. So starting at a lower dose is not necessarily a bad thing. It helps your providers to also see if you are developing any side effects. And some people are very sensitive and they tend to have a lot more side effects than other people. So in those cases, if you're very sensitive and you might start having a lot of nausea and vomiting generally, they might actually give you, a lower dose and start you on the pills.
All right. So the other, I guess, burning question that a lot of folks probably listening to this podcast have is what actually happens when you stick that needle and inject yourself with the GLP-1 dose or medicine.
Oh, yeah, that's a great question. So, for the injectables, when you inject yourself with the medication, it gets absorbed through the blood vessels in the skin and it goes into your bloodstream. So, it affects quite a few different organs in your body to actually bring about, the weight loss and the blood sugar control. The first thing it would do is because this is a glucagon-like peptide, it would regulate your blood sugar by changing the amount of insulin that your body is producing. So insulin, for everyone out there, is what breaks down your sugar in your body or your carbohydrates. And the glucagon is one of these. It works very similar to that, but it also kind of regulates how much insulin is being produced. So what happens is it inhibits the release of glucagon from your pancreas, which controls the glycogen breakdown through your liver. And so that would reduce the amount of sugar in your bloodstream. The other organ it goes to is your brain, and that is where the appetite suppression part would kind of kick in. So it basically reminds your brain to reduce the amount of food that you're eating, makes you feel full for longer, and that's why some people are having to remember to eat. But it also, those carbohydrate cravings, so like the cakes and all the sweet stuff, it suppresses your cravings for those. And another thing it does is, in terms of suppressing the appetite, is it regulates how quickly food is processed through your body by controlling the amount of digestion in your stomach. So it really slows down digestion through the stomach, and that helps the small intestines to break down your food, and everything happens a little bit slower, so you feel a bit more full for a longer period of time. And in the end, all of those things control your blood sugar levels in your body.
So it sounds like there's like a series of systems working together, so that way you have like the end result. Sounds like it's going into your blood. When it goes into your blood, it tells your brain that you are not hungry when you kind of might be hungry. And then there's like that, your liver and pancreas working to control insulin levels and sugar levels. And then the stomach like not emptying as fast as it normally would, so you're feeling full. And that's like the end result. There's less appetite, so you're eating less calories in your body. And you're not even aware that you are like losing calories in your body, so you don't feel hungry at all, and that's when you start seeing the effects of the weight loss. I don't know if that's a good way of like summarizing the whole process.
Yeah.
And now that we have deep dive a lot here in GLP-1, we started off the podcast by talking about injectable versus pills. We've given you a little summary here on what happens when you inject GLP-1 or you take GLP-1 in your body. And then we said like there is really no major difference with a different brand. Containing all the brand is the same drug. It's just packaged differently for other based on different manufacturing. But I guess the last burning question that the audience here might have is side effects. Side effects on GLP-1 and why should people be concerned. And this is why we kind of talk at the top of the podcast is always consult with a medical health professionals to understand your body and what the side effects can happen to your body. So at like a high level, what are some major side effects on GLP-1 that people should be aware of? Not saying it will happen to them, but it's something that it's possible and probably happen in drug trials.
So first of all, I wouldn't say all of them have the same drug. It's actually different drugs, but they all do the same thing. They all are the glucagon 1 peptide. But I mean, they all there's semaglutide and there's all these different names. So they're actually a little bit different, each one. So in terms of side effects, so the most common side effects that people experienced in the clinical trials were because of the slower digestion. So nausea, diarrhea, constipation, abdominal pains, just feeling very bloated. And then, of course, there's the people that are taking the injectables can also have injection site reactions, which is a very medical way of saying that you can have rashes around the site of the injection or infections around the site of the injections. It can become very red, very painful, very tender. And then there are more serious side effects that some folks can experience, like pancreatitis, because as I mentioned, like this is something that works on your pancreas. You can have other more severe side effects depending on the GLP-1, the dose, and of course your underlying health conditions. So if you have like a kidney issue, you know, the GLP-1s, you have to take them at a very specific dose because that can actually cause your kidneys to not work properly or not work the same way.
Yeah, so I think that's kind of why people probably are more should be cautious when taking GLP-1. The side effects, it is not like set in stones. It could vary based on each individual person. But I think like one thing I would say is that does GLP-1 how fast can people expect GLP-1 results once you start like using it?
It really depends on the person. Some people actually see, you know, changes within 2 weeks of taking the GLP-1 injectables. I remember having this conversation with someone that was taking it, and they actually started seeing, you know, actual weight loss in 2 weeks. That person didn't have like blood sugar issues, but again, people with blood sugar problems, they start seeing changes a little bit more gradually. It really just depends on the person, but they're very effective. Within a month, I'll say you'll be able to see some changes.
I think also it goes without saying, once you start taking GLP-1, you should probably still continue like exercising and dieting and just keeping that routine going, because it's not a magic drug. I don't think. I think if you rely on GLP-1, then you might like not understand long term. You might have to stay with GLP-1 for the rest of your life. But if you take GLP-1 and mix in some exercise and like prioritize your fitness and training, I think that's when you get probably the best results, and your body start learning how to like build a routine around proper eating and healthy habits.
Yeah, actually, that's what I saw that a lot on advertisements that talk about microdosing and lifestyle changes. You know, the first thing providers will tell you is that you have to make some amount of lifestyle change to kind of have weight loss, to manage your blood sugar, to manage cardiovascular risks. So these are just going to help you in the process of making life changes. So yeah, if you are taking the pills though, I do feel that if you're not strict about your diet, you might not see changes as quickly as if you were taking injectables, and that can get frustrating. So, you know, just the best advice is you take it one day at a time. You make small changes every day and give yourself some grace.
All right, well, that wraps up our first podcast. I told you guys this will be a banger. GLP-1 is here to stay. It's not going away. There's more to discuss on GLP-1. I know there's some like conversations around osteoporosis with GLP-1. Like, I guess bones become very spongy. We'll get into a lot more of that discussion on future episodes. So let us know if you want to get into any specific brand discussion that have GLP-1s and any deeper look into the side effects of GLP-1. And that wraps up our first podcast. I'll pass it up to Reva if there's any final thoughts.
Yeah, well, again, I really hope that us having the conversation to kind of bridge, you know, you're like a person that isn't with medical background. I hope it can.
I think you're referring to me, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
I hope that, you know, you guys don't have as many arguments as us when we come to these conversations. So I hope that we can help in some way in your discussions with your healthcare providers, and a little bit more understanding about, you know, the medical science that goes into it.
All right. We'll see you on the next podcast.